Praise God. How have you been? How was your month? Hectic? Smooth? Boring? Haha. We thank God we're alive, right? Yes. And this being the last week of the month, you know what it is. Time for that Bible study. So, welcome to the book. Welcome to lessons from the book of Esther, chapter 4, 5, and 6. If you didn't catch us last month, make sure you watch the video right up. You will definitely find it somewhere. Who could you? Last month we did lessons from the book of Esther, chapter 1, 2, 3, and this month we are looking at Esther chapter 4, 5, 6. So let's get right into it. So, Esther. Hello, kids. So, yeah, even if you think it's wasting your time, it's chapter 4. Wow. Now, Esther chapter 4. Now here, some problems have started. Mordecai has just learnt in Esther chapter 4. Mordecai has just learnt that Haman has sent a decree that has put the Jews into problems. Now the Jews are supposed to be killed. There's a certain day that the Jews are supposed to be killed. It was very panicking. So what Haman does, I like what Haman does. After Haman gets the news, Haman quickly looks for Esther. When Mordecai learned what had been done, he tore his clothes. Oh, he didn't look for Esther first. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out to the city, crying with a loud and bitter wail. He stood outside the gate. So the first thing he did, he goes into prayer. The first thing he does, he goes into prayer, because that's how they used to fast and pray. That's how they used to fast and pray. There's a cat disturbing me here. And that's how they used to fast and pray those days. They used to put on a sackcloth and put on some ashes, and that's how they prepared themselves to fast and pray. So Mordecai does this, and then he goes and stands at the gate of the palace, because there is where Esther would have noticed him. So this is my first lesson in the book of Esther, chapter 4. When there was a problem, Mordecai did not run for help first. Mordecai went into prayers. This is our first lesson. When you realize there's a problem, or when you realize there is something that is amiss, and you have confirmed it and it is sure this is a problem, this is amiss, the first thing we should do really is not to run for help. The first thing you should do is go on your knees, pray. I'm not saying don't look for solutions. I'm not saying go away. Again, the cat. I'm not saying don't look for solutions. It is good, look for solutions and all that stuff, but pray. The first thing, pray. Tell God, there is this challenge, lead me to the best solutions possible. The first thing, always our first thing to do, get on your knees, pray, and ask, and let us ask the Lord to lead us to solutions, because sometimes we involve God uko at sazile the thing is ending, sazile the problem at us is ending, sazile the problem, we are in the midst of it all. But if we learn to pray about it fast, when the problem is still fresh, pray and ask God to lead us to better solution, so that you have involved God right from the very beginning, so that even the solutions you start thinking of, you start getting advice from people, they are actually led by God. Yes. So that is the first lesson. So after getting into prayer mode, Mordecai does not keep quiet. Mordecai looks for Esther. He explains to Esther for the details, for the juicy details. Chapter 4 is very exciting for the juicy details and all that stuff. Make sure you read Esther chapter 4. So Mordecai reaches out to Esther. He explains, of course, through a third party, if you read the book. Through a third party. So he reaches to Esther, and then he tells Esther what has happened. Esther is shocked. And then, yeah, Esther at first she's scared. What can she do? I like what Mordecai tells Esther. Mordecai tells Esther that Mordecai sent this, verse 13. Mordecai sent this reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment that you will escape there in the palace when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance for the Jews will arise from some other places, but you and your relatives will die. You and your relatives will die. What's more, what can you say but that you have been elevated to this palace for just such a time as this? So this is what Mordecai tells Esther. Do not think you'll escape just because you're in the palace. If the Jews are going to be killed, you are a Jew. Guess what, my dear? You will be killed. And this could probably be the reason why God has elevated you to this particular position. This brings us to our second lesson in the book of Esther chapter Esther chapter 4. Most of us, God has opened our eyes to see a particular problem, and actually God has given us the ability to deal with these particular problems, but we don't deal with them because they are not directly linked to us. We're like, let me mind my own business. What is it related to me? Maybe God has given you a very good business idea that through that idea you could employ other people, but because you already have good luxury a good job, you don't see the need of starting that business. Yet you know if you started that business it will help other people. You're like, why should I take a risk for my life for people that I don't know? Or God has led you open that garage for this particular group of youths, but because you don't even know, God is leading you to people you don't even know, they're not related to you. So if you're hearing chaps, is it chapping or chipping of the birds? Yes. Yeah. So good morning from Africa, yes, and all that. And because I don't know how to edit the sounds, bear with me. So because God has led you to a good business idea, and God is leading you to help a group of youths that are not even related to you, and God is very specific, 1 2 3 youths, you're like, why should I open a garage for them? Why should I open this business idea for them? Who are they? They're not related to me, none of my business. Or there's a problem in the society and you know very well you have the solution, but you become very reluctant on becoming solutions provider because it's none of our business. After all, I'm okay, I'm good. You see that way. And maybe God has given you that solution for such a time as this. Maybe you are in that position for such a time as this, just like Esther. Esther became queen for such a time as that, for that reason, so that through her God could deliver the children of Israel. Maybe that solution God has given unto you as a Christian is so that all the honor and glory can go back to God. Isn't the days? Oh, thank God they have gone. Whew. Let's continue. Maybe God has given you that solution for that purpose. God has opened your eyes, not so that you just see there's a solution and then you keep quiet. No, there's a reason why you have been given that ability, that capability, and that capacity to be able to handle that. And there's a reason why God has opened your eyes for that solution for such a time as this. And the bad thing is, maybe the way Mordecai was telling Esther, like, I'm not threatening, but just maybe Mordecai sent back this reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment you'll escape there in the palace when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance for the Jews will arise from other place, but you and your relatives will die. Imagine. Maybe if you keep quiet, maybe you're just harming yourself. Maybe in one or another you're harming yourself. Is God has opened your eyes to a particular problem, you already know, you have noticed something that other people have not noticed, and God has given you a solution, or God is reaching out to you, pulling you, causing you to reach out to so and so, reach out to this organization so that you can do 1 2 3, but you're like, but I'm good. We are so much comfortable in our comfort zone. We don't see why we should go out of our comfort zone for people who are not even related to us. Why? I'm okay, I'm good. Yet maybe by keeping quiet you are just harming yourself and you don't even know. So for me, this is the lesson in Esther chapter 2, that there's a reason why God has placed you in that organization. When that organization is going through so much turmoil, there's a reason why God has placed you in that church, in that wherever it is that you are, in that family, when things are not okay. And it is not just for you to keep quiet and say, after all, it is not my business. If it falls, it falls. Guess what? If it falls, you will lose your job, and who can assure you you'll get another job? So it is better for you to get on your knees, pray, become part of the solution. Don't just see a problem and keep quiet. Just like Esther, we are in places where we are, and God has allowed us to see as what we are seeing, not so that we just keep quiet and say, what can I do? I am helpless. You are not helpless. As long as you're a Christian, you are not helpless. You have the tool of prayer. Yes, you have the tool of prayer, and a prayer for that situation can cause so much difference. You may not be able to have the financial capability, you may not even be able to have the voice to speak anything, but your prayers alone can save that organization, save that family, save that child, save that business. So don't just see a problem and keep quiet just because it is not your business, not your child, not your organization, not your country. God has given you a burden for people in other nations that are suffering. Like, God help them. that's how you pray. Done. No, pray as if you're the one in that country. If God has given you a burden for people in another country, for Christians going through persecution in another place, don't just say, God, remember them. Pray, pray, pray for them. Ask yourself, if it were me, if it was someone that I knew, is that how I would have prayed? So if God has opened your eyes to see a problem in a certain place, don't just say, not my problem. Don't just become so lukewarmish because you don't know. You never know. For such a time as this, God has opened your eyes so that you can do something. This is the lesson from the book of Esther, Esther chapter 4. Esther chapter 4. And then in Esther chapter 5, Esther springs to Esther now takes action. They pray. This is what they do. They fast and pray fast. Yeah, once God has opened your eyes to see, don't just keep quiet. Pray about it. Don't do anything before prayers. Pray about it. Tafadhali, pray. Before you do anything, pray. Like to man, the proverb says, to man belong so many thoughts, but the final word comes from God. So before you spring into action, commit your plans before prayers. If you've partnered with other people, have that corporate prayer, have that individual prayer. Then after prayers, don't just sit there. Remember, faith without action is dead. After prayer, spring to action. Esther sprang to action. She risked her life and she went to see the king. So do not. Esther had prayed, then they sprang into action, and it was just about that time that Haman was planning to kill Mordecai. You see, then in Esther chapter 6, we find that Mordecai, like in the same night, like Haman is planning to kill Mordecai, right? But in Esther chapter 6, we find that when Haman was going to the king so that he could have Mordecai, the plan for Mordecai to be killed and the Jews, it was the same night that the king could not sleep. Tafadhali read the book of Esther chapter 4, 5, 6. I am, like, because of time, this video is too long, I'm rushing through time. But again, remember, for you to catch this is just a summary. For details on both books, make sure you go to Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com, then search for Proverbs 27:17. Friendship, you will get the full details in the podcast for each chapter. Now in Esther chapter 6, it is the same night the king could not sleep, and then it is the same night that Haman was going to get the permission to go and kill Mordecai. See how God works because of the prayers. That same night, Haman is going to the king so that he can have Mordecai killed. It is the same night that the king could not sleep, and the king's inability to sleep, it's God moved to save the Jews because he could not sleep. Then he sends for people to read for him the history of his nation. Then the history is read. From the reading of the history, he learns about what Mordecai has done. See how Mordecai ameponia, because that same night when the history was being read, it is the same night that Haman was going to the king so to have Mordecai killed. But who is God? God went ahead, saved Mordecai by making the king not to sleep and leading the king to want to be read for what had happened in his nation. So as the person is reading, he learns about Mordecai, and then he asks, what did we do for Mordecai? Shocked to him, they did nothing. So now the king asks Haman, what can we do to a person who had done good to the king? Then Haman thinks the king is talking about him. Shock on Haman. Kumbe the king is talking about Mordecai, and that is how Mordecai's life is spared, because that is how Mordecai is saved. So you see the powers of prayers again out there. The lesson in Esther chapter 6 is we should pray, because it is the prayers that saved Mordecai in this particular place. Another thing, if you are standing by God, no matter what people are planning against you, it shall not come to pass. Whatever is meant for your harm will work for your good. If it did for Mordecai, it will do it. It will also happen for you. So this is the lesson from the book of Esther chapter 4, 5 and 6. Thank you for listening. Again, for details, for juicy details on the individual chapters, go to Spreaker.com, then then search for Proverbs 27:17 friendship. But I will leave a link to that particular place. Then you will get the individual. You can get the individual full details in both chapters. Thank you for listening. I hope you're blessed. I would like to hear from you. What are the lessons do you get from Esther chapter 4, 5, and 6? Again, for another round on Bible study, I will catch you next month. But for normal video content, I will see you on Monday on Proverbs 27:17 Friendships podcast on Spreaker.com. I will find you. You will find me. We will find each other on Spreaker.com platform, Proverbs 27:17 Friendships podcast. But for this Bible study edition, see you same time, same place next month. Shalom.